Hey everyone, and welcome to Almost Cancelled. I am Peter, and that is Tara, and we are going to talk about Big Little Lies, Season 2, Episode 3. It's called The End of the World. So, full spoilers for the episode, as always. So, first things up, first things first, I can't I'm not long out of bed, I didn't get a lot of sleep, okay, this might be a wackier review, but first thing is first, Tara was moving last week, so she was not here for the review, so I must ask you, because not to downplay this episode any, but I think out of the three episodes, episode 2 was clearly the big one so far.
Oh yeah, for sure.
So it's insane that that's the one you missed. So if you want to quickly just summarize your feelings on episode 2 to get the audience up to speed.
Well, I know like people I've talked to who have watched season 1 are not really into season 2, but last week episode I think changed a lot of people's mind because so much happened. Like everybody's storyline just got like chaotic and crazy, and a lot happened last week. And yeah, I was really into it, and I was sorry I missed the review.
Yeah.
Although I couldn't keep my thoughts to myself, I had to text you the whole time.
Oh yeah, no. I reiterated some of your thoughts on the last week's show, but it was a big episode last week to the point where
I'd say for last week, although there was a lot of Bonnie stuff that happened, I think mostly it was Madeline and Renata's story last week.
Let's not forget Celeste and Jane and everyone finding out about Ziggy and the kids finding out. Like for me, that was kind of the I want to say biggest thing, because there was obviously the other big things, but like if that might have had the most impact on me. And then you did of course have Ed finding out about the cheating and stuff. So I think it was almost a lot to ask for this episode to live up
to follow up.
Yeah, to last week's, because last week's it'd be one thing if it just did the kids stuff and revealed, like Ziggy knew about his father. It'd be one thing to just do the affair reveal to Ed, or it'd be one thing to just do Renata's plot, but it did all three of them in the same episode, and it felt so dense and packed. And then this episode felt a lot more like episode 1, I thought, where it was like good, like it's doing solid things. There's some great scenes with acting specifically. There's a couple of scenes with Meryl Streep, of course, specifically.
She's amazing.
I was laughing out loud early on when I realized that Madeline and Ed went to the same therapist, because it didn't cut to the therapist for a little while. It's like Madeline was just sitting there talking about like her feelings or what's happened, and I was like, is it the same therapist? Is it the same therapist? And it cut to her. I was like, yes, it's her. Celeste has recommended her. And I love the idea that between talking to two of them now, she's going to like build up this like, okay, this is why they're friends. This is like how they depend on each other, because they're both so different and but broken in so many ways. And even they kind of comment on that. There's a couple of scenes in this episode where they're in the car together and they're kind of being honest with each other about their feelings. And
it's a really great contrast between what you see Madeline talk about in the therapist's office and what she's willing to admit, and then when she's in the car and she's in this secure place with her best friend, what she's actually willing to admit.
Yeah,
she still can't help herself from lying when she's around like a place where she's supposed to be open.
Yeah, because that was a big thing for me in that therapist scene. Is I was like, wait, you thought Celeste was hard to like crack up and get her to spill the beans? Oh, you're in for a time with Madeline. In a later scene with Celeste, she refers to like her time with Perry as a war, because she's like, part of what you're feeling is like you're like a vet who misses being in combat because like regular life is too boring. You don't know how to adjust to it. But I'm like, you've got your own war with Madeline. Like this is like trying to get her, because every time she said anything to Madeline about like feeling regret about college or anything like that, like Madeline just got like, excuse me? What does that have to do with anything? Like that was her response to like everything.
Yeah. And when she admits it to her daughter Abigail too, that Abigail, you could see on her face, she's like, yeah, she's right. But we'll never say that to her mom, because her mom's going through a thing right now.
Yeah.
But I really like the scene with the therapist. At first I wasn't quite sure if I did, because I thought the therapist was being very difficult, like really, really hard on both of them. And it's clearly the first time that they've gone to see her. And I wasn't quite sure what to make of it, because she's very different with Madeline than she is with Celeste. But it sort of worked. And then for a while for a moment it seemed that she was going to turn on Ed and talk about his betrayal, but it was just a way for him to open up about the kind of person that he is, and admit that he is loyal and faithful and was invested in his marriage. And then it turns back on to Madeline. It was just a very different way of seeing how she treats, or how she is able to get through to different types of personalities.
Yeah, it is interesting to see it play with someone who's completely different, and more importantly, someone that we already know so well. Having seen Madeline for a season and a half now, like knowing how she is with people, knowing how defensive and how much she like shuts a cage around herself and deflects everything.
She depends on lies. Like everything she talks. The only time she's ever honest is when she's in her car with Celeste. That's the only time she ever seems to be honest. She had that one moment with her daughter last year, and then
and that was a big moment for her. Yeah, and because it builds up to this great little scene. We'll talk about Bonnie separately, but Bonnie's in a bit of a better place, and she's like sitting talking with Ed, and it's just they're just in a outdoor cafe. Doesn't whatever.
Yeah, they just seem to happen to be at the same coffee shop at the same time.
And Madeline walks up and feels. I don't want to say she just feels jealous per se. I think it's a bit more complicated than that, but it's just like he's kind of shunning her right now. He's not speaking to her. They're in a very bad place, and he's sitting there being jokey with her ex's current wife, and which I actually
who she hated for years.
Yeah, and they're in a better place now. And to be fair, I don't think she ever turns any shade on Bonnie in this scene. She kind of like whenever she addresses Bonnie in this scene, she's trying to just be nice to her. She's not like trying to like. There's no undercutting. There's no like subtext when she's, because last season whenever she spoke to Bonnie there was always this little edge to it, this little passive aggressive tone, and there was none of that in this scene. She wasn't taking out like how she was feeling on Bonnie, and I thought that was it showed kind of where she is with Bonnie because of their shared experience and because of what they've been recently. But I was laughing hysterically halfway through this scene, not because of something specifically in the scene, but because I just realized, because Bonnie in this episode, now I think it's more to do with her like walking into the ocean at the start and trying to like become better, and our conversation with Jane. But I did kind of laugh that she seemed to be in a better mood after having a conversation with Ed, which is exactly what Nathan was trying to get Ed to do in the first episode, and that really made me laugh.
And I'm sure Ed like genuinely enjoyed having just a sit down conversation with somebody who is happy to hear their stories or whatever. And it was, maybe there was a little bit of flirtation, but mostly it was just about, trying to have a smile during a time that's really hard on both of them right now. But you could, like, because it makes Madeline and probably Nathan very upset, it's also just a cherry on top.
Yeah, what he says, it's a twofer then. That's all pisses off Nathan. This is a twofer. Excellent.
I'm just going to throw this thought out there because it came up, but like, do you think he's going to contact the booby lady? Now that he realizes that he likes pissing off both of them. I mean, she made quite a statement in the first episode.
Hold on, I'm not ready to move past. Do you think he's going to contact the booby lady? That may be my favorite thing you've ever said on any show.
You know exactly who I'm referring to.
Oh, I remember them. I mean, her. That was an intentional joke, everyone at home. Thank you very much.
Nice. 2 points.
One
for each.
Yeah, one for each. So he may, like, maybe he's almost starting to understand what she was trying to do. Like,
yeah, that's true. Yeah, because he didn't know about the affair. We were speculating whether or not he did, but clearly he did not.
So maybe now,
so
like,
now things are making a little more sense.
Yeah, booby lady was trying to like piss off. I've forgotten his name now. Jeremy.
That doesn't sound right.
That doesn't sound right.
I don't know.
Theater director did. She was trying to piss off him and Madeline. He's like, I can be an ally in this. I can do this. Yes, that's pissed them both off. So maybe he will. I don't know. I think there's some really interesting stuff from it, and I think what's well written about this show is that while, like, because Celeste later on kind of chastises him a little bit for not helping his wife, I don't think anyone watching this show can look at Ed and anything he does in this episode and think he's being out of line, or he, you know, like you don't empathize with why he doesn't want to like step in and help Madeline, even, you know, because it all builds up to this. We get this parent assembly because, and we'll get to the reason for this, but they talk about teaching their kids about climate change, and the principal's getting kind of, you know, angry with the crowd. Madeline kind of shouts back at him and says, "Oh, wait, well, you can come up and talk first then." So she gets Madeline up on the podium, and she has this thing where she's talking about, you know, being honest with her kids. And, you know, it was a very great speech because all she does is lie to everyone. And she's kind of like feeling the effect of those lies over the course of the story of the show. So her like breaking down here, even though it's clearly not just about the kids, and it has that great shot at the end where she looks out at the crowd and everyone's gone except Ed. It's just all she sees is Ed at the back of the room.
Yeah, that was a wonderful choice.
That was a great little touch. And she just runs off crying, and, you know, Celeste, and because it was actually one of my favorite moments in this whole scene, actually, just for comedy value, is it cuts to Renata, who almost says something to Celeste, because it almost sounds like, you know, because at first Renata's like, yeah, go up and say what I want you to say, and like halfway through it sounds like she's saying no.
Talk about how Amabella was like in a coma or something.
Yeah. But when she goes up, about halfway through, it starts to sound more like, no, we should be honest to our kids completely, but she's kind of like breaking up. It's not like she's just doing this in the traditional Madeline way, and Renata like turns to Celeste and goes, just like changes her mind and doesn't say anything, and it just really made me laugh. But no, she runs out crying, and there's even a moment as well that I liked where Celeste looks over to Ed like, you know, are you going to help with this? And he just kind of shrugs at her like, I don't know what's going on. But when they get outside and Madeline's ran off, no one's seen her, and we see that she's back at home with Abby. But and Celeste chastises him. She's like, you know, you couldn't have helped your wife, and he's like, what do you want me to do? Like, you know, and he says something else like, oh, is there anything else, you know, that I don't know about, you know?
Right. He says, well, maybe we can get some coffee sometime and you can let me know all the other things that I've missed.
Yeah. And don't get me wrong, it's cold, but like, I can't be mad at him.
I don't think anybody watching the show has ever blamed Ed for anything. Like, this is the consequence of Madeline's choices.
Yeah.
Not his. And
I think what's interesting from Celeste's point of view is that she's someone who maybe like empathizes with Madeline in a weird way more because, like, and I'm not saying Madeline's as bad as Perry. I'm not even coming close to that. But in the sense that she's done something really bad to upset Ed, right? And, you know, earlier on in the episode, Celeste is saying to Madeline, no, Ed's a good man. He won't leave you. He loves you. Like, you'll get through this. And she kind of needs to believe that. She needs to believe that Ed will see the good in her. And it's almost like if Ed can't see the good in Madeline, if Ed like sees her as just a villain now, then it kind of like makes her feel worse about still having all these nicer feelings about Perry. You know, there's something in there that's it's like it's reflecting back in her own relationship and her own situation. And again, they're very different situations, but just in the sense that one of the two is definitely more the villain. Or not even more the villain, just is the villain in this case. When it comes to cheating here, it doesn't seem like Ed in any way is really that much to blame. I mean, sure, maybe he is a bit of a pushover. Maybe he, you know, the therapist accuses him of being kind of distant or whatever. But to be fair to Ed, though, everything we've seen in season 1 did not give us that impression. It gave us the impression that he was trying to connect with his wife.
And he defended himself in the therapist's office, and she seemed to accept that answer.
I think that's what it was. I think it was the way he delivered his answer told her what she needed to know. She didn't need to go down that path anymore, because the response didn't sound like he was trying to cover up a truth. It sounded like, no, you're accusing me of something that I just am not. And so much of the therapist, which I guess is a good thing for this show, is about seeing through the lies. Like, that is so much about what her role is in this show.
I think she knows exactly what type of personality Madeline is and how difficult it's going to be to get her to actually say something truthful. Even when we watch her in that scene, at first we're like, is she being honest? Like, we don't know if she's putting on a show right now for Ed and the therapist, or if she's actually, you know, breaking through and saying something truthful, because we don't trust her. Like, as an audience member, we still like her, we still want her to succeed, but we don't trust anything she says.
Yeah, I think the way I'd put it is not so much that she's putting on a show per se. I think she's being as honest as she can absolutely let herself be, but that still means withholding.
She's already said so many lies, it would be too much to be open right sitting next to Ed at this point.
Yeah.
She knows she's on thin ice, and she's just trying to protect herself.
Yeah, I think she's being as honest as she absolutely can be until someone breaks down the wall, which is interesting. And there's other little beats here. She says she caught her father cheating on her mother when she was a child, and
Yeah.
it seems to have,
Not at the therapist.
not to the
Noted.
therapist. This was to Celeste. Yeah, this was the where she
Yeah.
opens up, but it seems to be something that she never told her mum. It seems to be something that she kept all these years.
Hmm.
Because it sounds like her parents are still together. I mean, the way she talked about them didn't. I mean, they could be split up, but the way she said, "I've not spoken to my parents in years," it came off across as they're probably still married, to me.
Yeah, she said like 40 years.
Yeah. So, I think this idea that she doesn't believe in marriage as much as she wants to because her parents was kind of a shambles, even though maybe if whether or not it did actually break up or not, the fact that it's still sealed in all these lies, and then the fact that her marriage to Nathan failed, and maybe because it was him that was the. I mean, we don't know what the relationship was like. Maybe Madeline was a nightmare to be with at the time. Maybe he's not like the worst decision maker, but because he's the one who broke that marriage up, it has left her in this place where she's not ready to kind of. Like, she's gotten married again because she wants to have that life. She wants to have a married life with kids. She wants to do all these things and feel successful in that way. But she's not actually willing to actually buy into the commitment of it, essentially. Even if she didn't realize that before. She's not bought into the, I am devoted to this person. And, like, that's it.
Well, maybe she was with her first marriage and then,
exactly,
because it didn't work out that she... Oh, shoot.
Camera for the audio people, the camera froze on her end for a second.
Yeah, that's right. But because things work out, she talked about that fairy tale life during the assembly and how things don't have a happy ending, and it kind of breaks down the facade of what everything you learned growing up with marriage was supposed to be. Yeah. And who knows, like maybe that changes the second marriage.
Yeah, and this maybe even ties into her speech at the end about being honest with the kids, because all her dad said to her was, "This is some things Mummy doesn't need to know. Yeah. Mother doesn't need to know about the other women in the bed. So you can keep that to yourself."
Yeah, she said she was like 3 or 4 years old when she found out. Like,
yeah,
surprised she even held on to that memory for so long.
Yeah, I remember.
It must have been like a big deal.
I remember anything for being 3 or 4.
Well, I mean, when you learn that young that it's okay to hold secrets.
That's true.
Maybe that's why Madeline is the way she is.
Yeah, maybe. This is how she sees a marriage. It's just keeping lies to keep it in a stable place. You just keep doing things you're not supposed to.
It's all about the perception, not about the reality.
Yeah. And maybe I'm a romantic, but
I think Madeline is a fine example of what happens when you lie all the time.
Yes. Not a healthy relationship, not
to anyone.
To anyone, yeah. And you do kind of end up feeling bad for Ed, but so her talking about putting up walls, I think we'll pivot is into Renata, maybe.
Yeah.
Because there's not as much with her, although she did have a lot of funny lines. I loved her yelling at the principal, because the big thing happens early on in the episode is that Amabella has a panic attack, which is not something that I associate typically with children who are 6.
No, she has a panic attack and she doesn't like faint, but she is not able to stand, so she just kind of falls over. What the doctor eventually says.
Which, by the way, we should probably mention that they're having in class before the teacher notices that she's fallen over. There's a discussion about lies. Now, I have never actually read Charlotte's Web, but it doesn't really matter because I don't know if it's just a regional thing. Like, we just never used that book in school or whatever. But
yeah, we used it in my school.
Yeah, but it didn't matter though, because they're talking about lies, and Ziggy kind of just like, well, no, if that's what adults do, they lie to protect people, and it's like Ziggy's come a long way.
Yeah,
it's like he understands why his mother lied to him for so long. It's almost like her finally being honest when he asked questions about assault and things like that actually made him a better kid, because he was able to actually learn something from it instead of just being curious.
Yeah.
There's maybe something to be said. I'm not saying that we should all go around telling 6-year-olds what rape is. I mean, there's maybe a better age for that, but when push comes to shove.
He didn't believe that the stork brought him to his mom.
Yeah, exactly. He's like, all right, Mom, I keep hearing about the semen. What is semen? How does it work? Tell me.
I mean, there are things that are age appropriate, of course, but also like her not choosing not to lie to her son anymore because he's old enough to ask questions about things seems to make Ziggy probably the most stable kid in that class.
Seemingly, yeah, because Amabella is having panic attacks, and she gets taken to the hospital. Of course, Renata's like flipping out to the doctor. I love that the doctor, after being with like her and Gordon for like 30 seconds, is like, I would recommend therapy, like for the whole family.
For everybody.
Yeah. It's like, what's
Not
that
usually
mean?
the emergency room doctor's place to say, but yeah.
I'll be honest.
Clearly because of what he has seen.
Yeah, I'll think he's overstepping here. I think
I don't think so either.
Amabella's witnessing her mother yell at everyone around her because she's fainted. Like, this is not helping the case here.
I love Renata so much, like all the time, but in this episode in particular, like her kid goes from falling to fainting to a coma to almost died. Every single time she brings up the event, it gets progressively worse.
Yeah, because they get like a child therapist who's like dressed as Bo Peep.
Oh my God, it's so weird.
It's all a ruse. It's a ruse. And this is where we find out, because that's actually made me laugh, because the title of the episode is The End of the World, and when she's like, okay, so she's not being bullied, she's not being bitten or anything like that, she's worried about the end of the world, and when she said that out loud, I was like, that's what the title comes from. I just started laughing. And I'm like, context for this, for this.
Yeah, I saw the title when I went to watch the episode, and I went, whoa, that's pretty extreme. What is this about? Yeah. It's about climate change for lessons for 6-year-olds. Okay.
Yeah. It made me laugh when she said that, before she even like said, oh, they've been getting taught about climate change and she's worried that we're doomed. But then she goes on to say, and also Gordon, her father going to prison, and Renata's like, of course. She does this head bob, like, of course that's one. But also you, like, me?
Me?
What did I do?
I love that she goes, yeah, all three of these things are an issue, but the climate change or the end of the world is the big one. And there's almost like this sense of relief, like, okay, I can deal with that.
I like the idea though that she's actually just sugarcoating it for the parents, because she's met them and knows enough to like, no, if I tell them it's just them, they're going to like have their own panic attacks. I'm going to sugarcoat it. Yeah. It's mostly the end of the world, but it's not really.
Yeah, because Renata at least can blame somebody else,
Yeah. Also, this makes Amabella Buster, just for the record.
Oh my God, she's so Buster.
I mean, except...
But doesn't that make like every single mother in this show Lucille? Every one of them is just a version of Lucille.
They kind of are, but like, at least Amabella... I mean, it's easy to compare a kid to Buster, because the whole joke with Buster is that he's a 10-year-old in a 35-year-old man's body.
Yeah. I think the thing with Renata is that she is sort of Madeline times 100.
Oh, yeah.
When it comes to personality. And I think that's why they clashed so much in the first season. And they would probably still be clashing if they didn't have that one thing that united them. And I love Laura Dern's performance in this show. Oh shoot.
No, she's great. Because the scene where she comes into Gordon and he's in his toy room, and she's like, Amabella's upset, we're throwing her a birthday party, which nice memory from the writers, actually. Or I say memory, but you know what I mean, like nice detail from the writers that, yeah, Amabella should have a birthday, because she had a birthday early on last season and it was the same time of the year, so they should at least acknowledge that's happening. They don't have to necessarily show a party, but like mention it. It's cool. But
yeah, consistency.
It's good. But she's like, sell your effing toys.
Yeah. Yeah, she says she's not sparing any expense. Yeah. So
spare no expense.
Hello, John.
Hello, John. My dear Eddie Sattler, welcome to Jurassic Park.
I didn't make that connection, but yeah, it's there.
It's there. For those of you who don't know, John Hammond in Jurassic Park was Scottish, and Tara gets a kick out of me doing John Hammond impressions.
Sound just like him.
I really hate that man. Okay. That's what he's talking about. Goldblum. You know, when Disneyland
mate.
opened in the 50s, all sorts of rides broke down. Yeah, but I can't do
Yeah,
a
well, Pirates of the Caribbean broke down. The pirates didn't eat the tourist.
Yeah, I can't do a Goldblum voice. If I could do a Goldblum voice, I'd be doing Hammond and Goldblum back and forth like all day.
Yeah, that would be your YouTube show.
That would be it. I would just do
I
conversations.
still subscribe.
I would be like, okay, I'll just pick a scene from like, all right, The Dark Knight, sure, but except in this Dark Knight, Hammond is Batman and Goldblum's Joker, and I'd just do the scene.
$1 million idea.
It's $1 million idea. I need to find a Goldblum impersonator. Me and the Goldblum impersonator could just do that. I'll give up this review in malarkey. Anyway, so Gordon, I like Gordon in this scene because he's like, yeah, obviously what I did hasn't helped. Like, I'm not going to defend it, but like, there's something wrong with you right now. And it sounds like, because he says like, no, when I first met you, you were this person with all these walls around you, and it was really hard, but I did eventually break through. But that wall's been up again for a while now, and I think the implication here is that it's the same with Bonnie. It's the same timing. It's post murder,
Right.
that would be my guess anyway. And she can't.
That's where my mind went to. Also, it was either that or it was when Amabella was born.
Well, I wasn't guessing that because he says that Amabella, I think, has noticed it too. So I think there's been a change for her too, implying that it's not been her whole life. Was how I read it, and you know, he's right. Like, Gordon, for all his shittiness, he's right. Like, Amabella is noticing because, as we've seen last season all the time, the kids, you might not think they can understand all these things, but they notice something. They may not understand it completely, but they notice that something's wrong. They notice that people are agitated or stressed or upset or whatever.
Right.
And that's you know, so yeah. So she goes to the principal and yells at him about the climate change class, and he's like, climate change is important, but there's other parents complaining, so we're going to have this assembly. But I almost cheer for the principal. He's like, you know, this may shock you, Renata, but this school is for all the children, not just Amabella.
Yeah. I love the teacher because he had that, you know, interaction with her in the first episode, and it must have like crossed his mind like, oh shit, I'm gonna have to deal with this parent because it was Amabella that passed out.
He goes to the hospital with Amabella. He actually says, no, someone else look after my class. I'm going to the hospital because I care that much.
Yeah.
And the first thing Renata says when she gets out of the hospital after the doctor says something to her is, what
did you do?
Yeah, what did you do? You hack. you
Oh, and I love, we didn't talk about it, but in that scene when every time Gordon like tries to comfort their daughter, she's like, don't talk to her.
That's right. Yeah, I wonder what's wrong with Amabella. I wonder what she's noticing that's,
you know, right?
Stressful.
Her mom is a psychopath. I mean, her mom's under a lot of stress.
This is, I can't believe I'm saying this, but this is definitely closer to our David Lynch work than our Jurassic Park work. I'm just going to put that out there. This is way closer. But yeah, so we have this assembly. We talked about that scene with Madeline, because it ends up being Madeline's scene. You know, as much as Renata kind of made it happen, it ends up being Madeline's scene. So, so that's that. I'm going to let Firefly out. So why don't you start talking about Bonnie?
Yeah, so Bonnie's really made a turn in this episode. First, she's I guess the first thing we see her is that she has this memory of her and her mother when she was a baby. Oh, shoot.
That's a good freeze, actually. You look like you're in like a mafia movie, and you're like, yes, very good.
Yeah, I don't know why whatever. I'll deal with it.
Bada bing.
Anyway.
Bada boom.
Yeah, so she has this flashback, this memory of her being with her mother as a baby, and her mother's telling her how to swim, trying to teach her how to hold her breath underwater. And she just keeps saying, I don't want to do it. I don't want to do it. And then her mother just like dunks her in there, which she's fully not prepared. And it's really shocking when you see it, because it seems almost cruel, but it is a good way to teach a kid how to hold their breath, I guess.
I mean,
and then she walks into the water, and she seems to come out, and she sees Jane on the beach also. And I know. Oh,
that's a great freeze frame.
But when she sees Jane, she seems like genuinely happy to see her, and they have this like they hug, and Bonnie seems to be coming around. Like, I don't know exactly what has happened to trigger it, but she's reaching out to people. She's letting, she's having conversations again. Even the scene with Ed, she was laughing, and it was like old Bonnie.
Yeah, I want to just rewind for a second because I want to crack a joke. Yes, the dunking your child in the water to teach them how to swim. That's very much the if you can dodge a wrench, you can dodge a ball method of teachings. Anyway, I think like her walking into the ocean. I mean, it's kind of a cliched thing. Or got into the ocean to cleanse yourself and be reborn. Like that is such a cliched trope. But because it intercut with the flashback, it did kind of like, okay, she's basically forcing herself to kind of try and move on. And the first thing we see her do after this is actually like walk in and she sees her mother talking to her daughter, and she's singing her song. And she joins in. It's a song that she was presumably sang to as a kid, and they kind of 3 generations of the family are singing together, and it's a relatively sweet moment. Yeah, and then again, although I'm going to give Ed all the credit because it's the funniest thing to give credit for this, is that Nathan was right. All she had to do was talk to Ed over a lunch or a coffee, and she's right as rain.
Turns out Nathan knows his wife pretty well.
Not as well as Ed, but he knows her well enough.
Ed's just good with women.
He knows Ed well enough to know that he'll work his magic.
Adam Scott's a pretty funny guy.
Yes, he's a pretty funny guy. So no, I mean that was basically it. But like, it was it was just in the montage at the end, of course. But no, it was nice to see her kind of
happy.
Yeah, it was nice to see her happy. And I'm sure we're not done with our plot by any means, but it was nice to see that development. And that leaves us with Jane. Well, and Celeste. We'll get to Celeste and Meryl Louise, don't worry. Well, I mean, I guess Meryl Louise should probably be more with Jane, actually, now that I'm thinking about it.
Yeah, they had a couple of big scenes.
Probably the biggest scenes of the episode in a lot of ways.
Yeah, apart from like the assembly. That's probably true.
Because I think Meryl Louise goes to see Jane at her work. Very awkward. Immediately I'm getting tense because I'm like, oh, what's she going to say? Like, because she always has something. In fact, speaking of funny Renata moments, Renata and Madeline are just like, complaining about the school or whatever as they're walking out of Madeline's work. And Renata says something like, effing the pussy or something. She says like there's a couple of swear words strung together. It's like really graphic, which is swearing.
Very vulgar.
Very vulgar. And like Mary Louise just walked out and turns around and goes, oh. And she I don't even remember what she says, but she just kind of stares at her and like, makes like a sound and says, "Oh, I've found a place," and then as they're walking away, Renata just turns to Madeline and goes, "What the f?" Like it's like she doesn't know how to compute Mary Louise. I actually can't wait until Madeline gets so pissed off at Mary Louise that she just sets Renata on her. It's like, all right, you know what?
I know. She's a bulldog.
This is a tall version of me. Prepare yourself. Prepare yourself.
Oh man, yeah, that's gonna be great.
But Mary Louise,
the scene where Mary Louise is with Jane for the first time, and when she's around Madeline, like she's so powerful. She has this like ability to just, even when she's sitting down, she's still like looming over top of everybody because she's so intimidating. But when she's with Jane, like she's fiddling with her hands. She seems incredibly nervous.
That's a very good observation.
I don't know if it's an act or not, because I know she has the ability to be the complete opposite.
Yeah, it could be an act in the sense that she's basically trying to make herself look more sweet and innocent to Jane so that she'll honor her request. Or you could read it as, no, it's genuine and she's nervous because this is the woman that will prove that her son, as she puts it later in the episode, is evil. And and because of that, Jane has some amount of power over her. And I'd also like to read into it a little bit and say that because Jane went through her acceptance, by the end of season 1, she accepted what happened to her. She was willing to talk about it, and at this point in this season, she's told Ziggy everything that Ziggy should hear as a 6-year-old. She's in a place where she is the most powerful she has been as a in a personal level, empowered, where she's willing to fight for herself and be honest about things. And I think you could argue that that's why Madeline does feel threatened when she's around her, because Madeline actually has a bed of lies that will buckle. Like like Madeline could be defeated, and Madeline knows she can be defeated because she's using lies, whereas Jane is being 100% honest, and because of that has nothing to be defeated with.
You're right.
Mary Louise, lies to her are ammunition. It's how she wins, and Jane's not giving her that, and I think that's what that scene really said to me.
Yeah, she's on this really stable foundation, where Madeline, in contrast, is like, her foundation is completely shaken because it's built on lies.
Yeah. So, because she's like, oh, can we get a paternity test for Ziggy? And she's like, I'm pretty sure I know it's, he's the guy. Like, she says at one point he's the only one I've been with. I don't know if that's implying that it's literally the only man she's been with, or it's just, no, there's no one even close to that.
That's how I took it.
Yeah, it probably does mean that. And
I mean, how can you be with somebody after you've been through that experience?
Yeah. Well, I was thinking she might have been with someone before that, but
right.
But
True.
yeah. I assumed that she wasn't in the mood for any one night stands in the last, 5-6 years, understandably so.
Well, we get that impression from her, definitely from this episode.
Yeah, we get that later. She's obviously,
she goes on dates.
She's just starting to kind of, let herself be open to the idea again, kind of thing, and that's part of her journey as well, of course. But she's like, no, I know what he did. I know it was him. There's no doubt in my mind. And she's like, why do you want this? And she's like, and I actually didn't hate how, like, because Mary Louise often infuriates me, and she infuriates me a lot in this episode. I didn't hate how she phrased this request, though, when she's asked why she needs this to happen, because she doesn't phrase it as, I need proof that he did this because I don't believe you, because she's been very dismissive of the victim. She's been very victim blamey and doughty, up until now. She instead says, I need proof that he's evil for me. That's the way she kind of phrases it, is that I need to actually, right. If there's a chance that this disproves what you're saying about my son, I have to know that it's disproven. Even though, but she says it in such a genuine way, I actually didn't hate her for it, because it was like, okay, I actually kind of get it. You need to know beyond a shadow of a doubt that your son's what they're saying he is. Yeah,
I mean, and she has that great scene with her. I think it's the second scene with it.
It's almost right after, because I think Jane goes to school, drops off Ziggy, I think, and then she goes, she has like this quiet moment and then goes to meet Mary Louise, and she sees photos of Perry and his brother as kids. And
he looks just like Ziggy.
And I'm pretty sure it's just the actor who plays Ziggy who's taking these photos.
Yeah, I'm sure it is too, but like, doctor to make them look older.
Yeah. And she's like happy to see him, and Mary's like, I want to be in his life because I'm his grandmother. And Jane is a trooper and says, basically kind of nods and says, okay, because I'm not so sure if I would want like the mother. I mean, even if she's like a wonderful person, I'm not so sure I would want anyone from his family involved.
Right, but I mean, you could see why it would be cruel to not let her see her grandchild also.
Yeah, it's really murky. I mean, it's obviously a difficult position for everyone.
It's so murky, but you can see both sides. Like,
because I mean, can you look at it
is technically her grandson. Like,
but can you look at like the grandmother playing with your kid and not be reminded of how you got the kid? When you look at her. Like. So, and obviously the other thing we've been saying for the last couple of episodes is that, the apple doesn't fall far from the tree, and she's emotionally abusive, so it might actually just be a really bad idea because of that. Obviously, Jane's not really caught on to that yet, if that is the case. Maybe Mary Louise will turn out better than we think she is, but...
Maybe. One of the things that really stuck out from this conversation was she kept asking if Ziggy was a sweet boy, and then she kept talking about how Perry was the sweetest boy. And it kind of, because Jane had this sense of relief, it seems like he's not like his father, but if Perry was a sweet boy too, now it's like entered back into her mind that she has this paranoia again. Her son can still grow up to be Perry.
It's almost flipped it, because last season it was like, oh, I'm worried that he's hitting someone, so is he like his father? And now it's like, no, his father was sweet and appeared to be kind when he was a kid, but still grew up to be what he is. And we don't know how accurate that is. I mean, Mary Louise, like, she has the rose-tinted mother glasses on. What she thinks was sweet, maybe just in the same way that Celeste didn't know that Max was doing stuff until it was, caught and pointed out to her. Right. So, so it could be genuine. It could be that she is just blinded, or that she missed it, or she's just flat out lying. It could be any of those things. And that's interesting. And Jane's response is, again, very honest, like, no, he didn't grow up to be any of those things. And again, Mary Louise does not have a comeback for it. She just kind of gets flustered. She doesn't have some witty remark to like disprove like what she's saying. She doesn't have anything. It's like, okay. And she is kind of creepy because she shows up later when she's taking Ziggy to school. And it's kind of weird at first, but I kind of understood that, okay, she's not getting the test, but if she sees him, given that Jane said that he looks a lot like her sons, if she sees him, then she might be like, okay, I recognize my son in him. I know it's him. Right. However, let's not gloss over the fact that at one point she does ask like some really absurd questions, like who initiated first contact on the night that he was conceived and things like that. Like, it's just
it was a little bit of like slut shaming.
Yeah, how can I possibly turn this around so that it's your fault for tempting my sweet son?
She's doing whatever she can to make her son into the angel she thinks he is.
Absolutely. And it makes me feel kind of sick.
A little bit. Because what happened. And she even said he raped me, and the whole time I told him to get off and to stop.
Yeah.
That was a really powerful moment. I don't know if it struck with Mary Louise it did with me, but
it made her speechless because I think the exact phrase is, I was screaming to get off me, I think was the exact phrase. There was no misreading it. And it's really... Mary Louise's scenes this season are very difficult to watch in a lot of ways. And then, of course, her final thing is that she is snooping around Celeste's medication drawer, and she tries to make an excuse. I was looking for something to help me sleep, and she's like, "No, you're not. You're snooping. Get out."
Yeah.
And the reason why I have those pills is because I need them for the pain when your son kicked me, and things like that. Which I guess neatly kind of takes us into Celeste's side of the story, which not super in depth this episode, and she gets a lot of time most episodes, so that's not a big deal. But she talks about how she wants to remember the good things and how that's good for her family, to remember how he's with the boys. At one point she sits down with the kids and Mary Louise, and they're looking at all these like videos that they recorded together.
Yeah. Which it's all happy memories.
Yeah, and she's trying to buy all this, and she's still... So we don't deal with this as much. This is still very much just her trying to remember the good things. And it's almost like Mary Louise, in a weird way, is kind of like the biggest reminder of how bad he was, because she keeps snooping, she keeps doing things, to the point where she flat out says, you need to leave. Like, you need to go stay elsewhere.
Right.
I can't have you around here.
She's toxic.
Yeah, she really is. Which leads to what I'm going to call the most unhealthy... Well, not the most... I mean, because now I'm thinking about like scenes in Psycho, but in a drama, the most unhealthy masturbation scene I've ever seen, where she masturbates to footage of Perry, which is
it goes back to the therapist from the opening scene with Celeste, and how she's saying it's unhealthy for you to hold on to these only good memories. And she just can't let go of him. She doesn't know if she misses him or if she's, better off without him at this point. And it's just like escalating to this really toxic, unhealthy place that she's in.
Yeah, I think to me it says that despite everything he was doing, she was still kind of dependent on him. Like there's other parts of what he did and what he was doing around that she depended on. She can't
let go of the war.
Yeah. Yeah, there you go. Back to that phrase. Back to it again. No, so yeah, Celeste doesn't get as much good. Celeste usually gets like the best moments in most episodes, so maybe it was nice of her to take a back seat for an episode and be like, everyone else can have the big moments.
Yeah, she always has to like really act.
She does have some bruises though, and she says she got it when she was breaking up the boys, and the therapist asked if she's been self-inflicting them. Do you
think that was from the boys?
I don't think the boys hit her like hard enough to bruise her, like, or even intentionally hit her. They were just kind of waving their arms around for the most part at each other.
I don't remember. Like, they're not very strong, like, to leave a bruise like that. Maybe it is from the boys, or maybe we find out it was self-inflicted.
Was it from the drive? Maybe the crash. Does the therapist know?
It could be from the crash. Like, maybe she didn't admit to that.
Yeah, Madeline even cracks a joke about that. She's like, "Oh, taking other sleepy drives recently."
Right.
Yeah. A little bit of deflecting with the humor. But yeah, that was the episode. A lot of solid scenes, a lot of great things. But definitely it's in a bit of a shadow because episode 2 was like so insanely like
Yeah,
big.
episode 2 was so good. I mean, again, like every character is so fascinating and the acting is just so stellar that I'm going to enjoy every episode, I'm sure. And the writing is still good, like it's still holding up. I don't really have a lot of complaints about it. It's just it's not as doesn't have as many big reveals as episode 2. So yeah, it's going to be a little bit in the shadow.
Yeah. Well, I think the struggle for season 2 over season 1 is that season 1 had at the heart of it this Perry Celeste abuse storyline that was like riveting in a really dark way. You know, it was this really tense thing where every time she was alone with them, it was like, this is the thing that has to be
It's a horror
fixed.
show.
Yeah. And this season doesn't really have that. This season has aftermaths. And, you know, I said in my review of the finale from last season, and I still feel this way, that I don't really like the reveal that Perry was Jane's rapist, but I do like everything they're doing with it this season. You know, in terms of drama, in terms of how they're using it for the characters. I like all that stuff. The reveal itself I still don't like, but at least how they're using it, I appreciate. And how it's how it's creating these scenes with Meryl, or how it's creating these scenes with Ziggy having to be told the truth, or things like that.
Yeah, I mean, it's a little soap opera, but I mean, it's still, I don't know how to explain it. Like I agree with you. The real reveal got to me. I never read the book, but it kind of made it seem like, okay, this is like a thriller novel now, where everything just kind of links together. That doesn't. It seems a little far-fetched, and to be honest, a little bit cheap. But I agree. Like everything is, all the acting and the characters are still so interesting, and what they're doing with the consequences of that reveal has been very engaging. I'm totally into season 2.
Yeah, now I'm looking forward to the next episode. And this has been, and the fact that, I mean, we're hitting like 50 minutes of talking here for episode 3.
My camera is like dying on me.
Yeah, it's like positive. And so the fact is we know it's definitely your computer that's doing this, because you've got a different internet connection now.
Yeah.
It doesn't happen every time we talk. It's literally just like every couple of weeks there'll just be that one night. It's just like, nope, freeze frame, bitches. So
I don't know.
I know.
I actually have another laptop that I will probably get in the next week or so. So yeah, it's an old laptop, but it's different. So we'll see if that helps.
But it's like a proper computer. This is a Chromebook you're on.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're going to switch to a proper
This one has
computer.
Windows and everything.
Windows?
Even a CD-ROM.
Not even a DVD-ROM?
Oh, I don't know.
How old is it? Do you know what pleases me about that more than anything, though, is that in the past when we've tried to troubleshoot some tech faults with you, is that I try to help because I know how to fix things, but then it's like, no, I'm on a Chromebook. I don't have any of these options. I don't have
a tablet, basically, with a keyboard attachment. They don't have the programs work very differently.
At least now I can actually like look in my computer and like say where you should go and what you should be checking and what you should be, looking at. Anyway, that has been Big Little Lies season 2 episode 3. So we're actually kind of like halfway through the season now, because the next episode's the middle episode, because it's only 7 episodes.
Oh, yeah.
So it's a quickie.
So much happens every single episode. Like there's still so much to tell.
Yeah, there is.
Even though there's only 4 episodes, they're going to be loaded.
And we would hope that probably more loaded as we go. I imagine as we get closer to the end, it's going to be more packed and more dense. So yeah, that's Big Little Lies for the week. Let us know what you think of the episode in the comments below. You can like and subscribe and all that stuff. If you want to support us, you can do that. You can also rate us on your podcast app, your iTunes. If you go to the review section, give us 5 stars, give us a review. It helps us out, spreads the show to more people, which of course is very important. But of course, if you want to support us financially and spare no expense, as they say, Tara will tell you about Patreon. Wales holding a dog, because the dog will make you even more.
She was looking at me. I had to pick her up. Yeah, you can check out our Patreon. It's patreon.com/SmileFestTV. You can donate as low as $1 per month, and you get a bunch of extra goodies. For the $1, you get bonus episodes for some shows we do. Some shows you get a week early. Not these ones, obviously, but a couple other shows that we do together.
Yep. Yeah, like the Atomic Cinema Experiment or Sci-Fi Movie Podcast that we do every week, and even get a bonus episode of that for $1 a month. You get a bonus episode of that. You get a bonus episode of the Screams After Midnight Horror Movie Podcast every month, and you get Mail Fuzz Mysteries, which is just me and Connor talking about random things. All these things for $1, and then there's other things, of course, higher up. So there you go. That is the show. That has been us. So thank you once again for watching or listening. Get us on the Twitters at mailed_fuzz for channel updates. Get me on Twitter at Wibble89, and just get Tara on Twitter by using your imagination and pretending that she's tweeting
I don't have Twitter.
some way. Yeah.
You can check out our Ace Twitter. You can reach me through there.
You can, yes, at the Ace Podcast for our Sci-Fi Movie Podcast Twitter. But that's us. So thank you once again for watching or listening. We always appreciate it. Keep watching TV, guys. Have you got any vanilla?